I think the science is clear that Africa has every reason to push really hard and fight really hard to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius, because even from 1.5, but especially from 2 degrees Celsius, we start to see strong evidence for hard limits to our ability to adapt. Our assessment of adaptation action in Africa to date is that it has most often been incremental and at the local level, as opposed to transformational and across all levels of society. And so my hope for the near-term future would be that adaptation actions in Africa transition from being located purely at local levels with often incremental change and really integrate from local up to national levels and are more transformational in making the big changes we need to adapt to future climate risks. A lot of the research in our group that was supported by IDRC is what's called synthesis research. So this is using large amounts of existing data sets, bringing them together from different studies or different databases and integrating them to get a better Africa-wide picture of the current state of adaptation or of the future climate risks. And examples of this include estimates of the proportion of Africans in different countries that are climate change literate. So that is the percentage of people in a country who have heard of climate change, understand that it has human causes and understand its implications. And in many African countries, unfortunately, that rate is below 50%. And the rate is typically lower for women than for men. And the good news is that one of the strongest predictors of increased climate change literacy rates is having completed high school or having a tertiary education. And so this research showed that there's a huge opportunity to increase climate change literacy in Africa, and that we should really be linking education and climate change development agendas to increase a sort of win-win opportunity between education and climate change literacy. Our research has been useful and informative to policy in a number of ways. The first one is a lot of it was assessed as part of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which exists to provide policy relevant assessments of the science to policymakers that then inform their decisions on climate action. And another way that it has been informative to policymakers is through briefing notes for negotiators at UNFCCC, as well as briefing notes for local officials on better understanding climate risks in their regions, risks to food security, risks to health, as well as how they can respond to these risks through adaptation actions. And this has been from the African Union level down to local municipal levels. I'm positive that we'll see an increase in climate change literacy in Africa. A lot of policymakers have shown an interest in that research, and I think there's a really strong and growing recognition on the continent that in order to prepare for future climate change risks, we need a population that understands the causes of climate change and to expect further climate change in the future, and therefore be able to better plan for the types of adaptation actions they can take to protect themselves.